it's cryptocurrency futures. We're going to do a product overview. Just look at, Bitcoin, the Bitcoin futures, the micro Bitcoin futures, and also the small crypto futures as well. What is your right off the bat here, Jamal? I know you're totally aware and understanding of the cryptocurrency asset class, but what's your experience touching any of these futures in that asset class?
So I think you're absolutely right. As far as you haven't covered in a while, and there's reasons why. I mean, it's kind of just been pretty quiet in seeing that we don't have any different ways to collect premium. It's similar to kind of, we obviously haven't seen the same volatility as we've seen with oil, but it's similar in the way where we talk about ranges. I feel like it's around 40K, and that's kind of a fair range. And it's been kind of quiet, which is not what we're used to when we talk about cryptocurrencies, but they've been kind of quiet for the meantime. So, it's part of the reason why I haven't traded it much.
Yeah, and starting to wake up a little bit here to the downside. And you're totally right. Kind of similar to crude oil or even like metals, just in terms of like had a big range in the last year, in the last couple of months, and got a little complacent in the last few weeks here. You can see just dancing around 40,000 in Bitcoin. But I mean, no matter what your take is on cryptocurrency, when it comes to trading futures and trading these crypto futures, the name of the game is the same as trading micro S&Ps or trading small 2-year yields or whatever, which is to say, I'm looking for some price action opportunity, man. And the price action in Bitcoin for the last year, of course, you can go back if you add on 5 years or 10 years and say, well, actually, Bitcoin has been as low as a couple $100, and so it could get all the way down there. Yes, of course. But I'm just trying to play the game with the tools that I have in recent trade. And recent trade has said, hey, this market gets down to the 30s. It's bounced back. It gets up to the 50s and 60s. It comes off. There's actually been a case for a little bit of a mean reversion trade in here, and we're now below that mean. I mean, is that you Jamal, coming from mostly traditional markets, and myself as well, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Does that make sense as an opportunity? Can you turn off all of the talk about cryptocurrencies and NFTs and just trade the price action, or what?
That's exactly what you should do, honestly, because otherwise you might confuse yourself. But pay attention to the price action and kind of, as you alluded to, it's getting back to a certain range. I think it just dipped below the 50-day moving average. For those of you who look at moving averages, which I do at times, it's kind of hitting that moving average. And so you're bound to probably see some either buying or selling pressure one way or the other, given where it's at right now. So that's probably what I'm looking to see what it does next, because they've been kind of beat up over the past week, cryptos. But the other interesting thing about it is so is the market. And the reason why is you've noticed now they kind of have a high correlation. Bitcoin and equities sort of seem to have this 0.6 correlation more recently. So that's kind of one of the things I'm paying attention to as well.
Yeah, absolutely. When you get outside of just the Bitcoin and you look at something like the small crypto futures that have a bunch of crypto stocks that overlap with the tech sector that's been getting absolutely hammered recently, and it's got Bitcoin and ETH in this equity index future here, you're even lower than the mean. You're actually, in terms of this market, at lows for the last year or so here. So similar mean reverting attributes, maybe even a greater value. And keep in mind that this future it's an equity index future that has Bitcoin and ETH in it, but it's also got, your Coinbase, your AMD, your PayPal, and everything else. And it's just an amalgam of all of those different markets that, have been getting beat up. I mean, I've got some long tech stock exposure, and I've actually in the last week scooped up 2 SCCXs and actually was able to peel one of them off for a profit and back to scratch on the first one that I was a little early on. And it's creating a nice back and forth trade, a nice bit of price action back at a downside extreme in crypto. And of course, you can go to the micro Bitcoin futures, which actually I love. I think they made a really nice product in there. Only thing is, it's still a little large. It's about a $4,000 or $5,000 product that costs you about $2,500 to trade. Small crypto futures, half the size of that, and the cost is under $1,000, closer to a third to trade. But whether you're looking at the small crypto or the micro Bitcoin, you can't, it's price action for us, right? Like at the end of the day, I see, no matter what it is, I see a downside extreme. I see a market that has shown mean reversion in the last year, and I'm looking to buy it, right?
Yeah, totally. It totally makes sense. For me, since I've got a lot of long equity exposure and I have paid attention to that correlation more recently, I would be inclined to sell it, but I just don't think that it's a sell here. And I don't necessarily want to put that trade on right now, but I totally get why you would buy it.
Yeah, and a great point that you don't necessarily want to stack up too much exposure.